Despite having to follow its wildly successful handheld predecessor, released worldwide in March of 2011, the Nintendo 3DS quickly grew to become one of the best portable consoles of all time. Home to countless beloved entries into numerous Mario and other first-party Nintendo franchises, before the Switch came along, and as the PS Vita, its closest competition, fell away, this quirky dual-screen device was unabashedly the best way to play legitimate games on the go. However, earlier this month, Nintendo understandably decided to call it quits on production of the Nintendo 3DS's entire line of SKUs, forcing gamers everywhere to exclaim, "Good night, sweet prince," on one of the best handheld consoles ever made. With that said, we thought it worth celebrating the system's impressive 9 years on the market with a list of the 10 best Nintendo 3DS games of all time. It might solidify the death of dual-screen gaming, but what a ride it was. I'm Aaron from Console Deals, and before we get into it, I'd sure as hell love it if you would subscribe, but enough of me, let's get into things. The original Luigi's Mansion for the Nintendo GameCube was an odd choice for a new console's day one launch game, yet this spooky experiment centred on Mario's gangly brother and set within a haunted mansion captured all of our hearts. That's why it wasn't a surprise to see the cult classic Hoover 'em Up receive a sequel in Luigi's Mansion Darkmoon for the Nintendo 3DS. This time segmenting your need to chase and catch as many ghosts into bite-sized missions rather than the first game's sprawling mansion, it's a format that worked especially well on the go. Darkmoon has, of course, since been bettered by the excellent Luigi's Mansion 3 for Nintendo Switch, but that still doesn't discount what it did for this underdog series. It was here, for example, where the notorious Scarescraper mode was added, letting teams of 4 explore endless floors of a mansion. Stunning, sucking, and eventually capturing ghosts is all wrapped up in Nintendo's hallmark charm, blending well in a spooky themed game that's suitable for all ages. The release of any Super Smash Bros. Entry will always serve as a massive event, but Super Smash Bros. For Nintendo 3DS was particularly special as it proved that this infamous crossover fighting series could indeed work on a handheld. Granted, this pared back version worked by rendering characters with cel-shaded outlines to make their moves stand out more on the 3DS's smaller screen, but this was very much still the full Smash Bros. Experience that amazingly released a month ahead of its Wii U partner. The base version of Super Smash Bros. For Nintendo 3DS launched with 17 never-before-seen fighters such as Wii Fit Trainer, Villager from Animal Crossing, and even Bowser Jr., all of which have now been translated to the Nintendo Switch's Super Smash Bros. Ultimate and have become popular favourites. The 3DS version featured 2 exclusive modes in Smash Run and Street Smash, both of which were nothing game-changing, but were still a nice little treat in what is still one of the best series entries. Despite initially starting out life on the Nintendo GameCube, Animal Crossing is a life simulation series that appeared ready-made for a handheld console. Wild World on the original Nintendo DS gave us a small taste of this, but it was in Animal Crossing New Leaf for the 3DS where the concept was fully realised. The major difference New Leaf made to the format was casting you not as a resident of this new town, but rather its mayor, meaning it was now up to you to keep the townsfolk safe and make their home a better place. Upgrading and redecorating your personal home feels as fulfilling than ever in New Leaf, not least due to the wide range of furniture options that slowly become available throughout the seasons. When not doing this, you'll spend most of your time fishing, catching bugs, and just generally earning as many bells as possible, all in real time while checking your 3DS daily. Street Pass was a good example of why you should always take your New Leaf equipped 3DS with you anywhere, enabling you to visit the homes of any nearby players you'd passed by that day. It may have since been bettered, but Animal Crossing New Leaf was a dream. The unspoken rule is that when Nintendo is ready to call it quits on a console, it rolls out the Kirby game. This thankfully didn't happen in the case of the 3DS, with the infamous pink blob getting a handful of great titles on this beloved handheld. The unabashed best one of the bunch was by far Kirby Planet Robobot, which lived up to its name by having players traverse countless 2.5D stages as Kirby in a range of super-powered equipped mech suits. It improved upon previous Kirby games by having levels feel more bite-sized, presenting players with countless combat options thanks to Kirby still being able to absorb the natural abilities of enemies in addition to the suite of new mech powers. Sure, it's a little on the easy side as expected, but the various Robobot armors serve as a natural evolution of mechanics previously laid down in earlier entries, still making this the best Kirby game yet, even when compared to Kirby Star Allies on the Nintendo Switch. It's easy to forget that the Revelations sub-series of Resident Evil games originally began life on the Nintendo 3DS, successfully condensing down the classic over-the-shoulder gameplay by stranding Jill Valentine and new partner Parker within the confines of a spooky ship. The survival horror game has since gone on to receive significant graphical upgrades after being ported to other systems, but the original 3DS rendition still impresses with some of the best visuals found on the console. Being less bombastic than its main series counterpart at the time, Resident Evil 6, ended up working in Revelation's favour, returning the classic horror series back to its core roots and proving that the scares were still possible on a handheld. All this was achieved despite allowing players to move and shoot for the very first time in the franchise. Revelations was a far better example of a portable Resident Evil than almost every other attempt before it, especially the woeful Mercenaries 3D that came early after the console's release. Metroid Samus Returns marked one of the last big first-party exclusives for the Nintendo 3DS, arriving so late in the console's lifecycle that it left many players stumped as to why it wouldn't be coming to Switch. As a ground-up remake of the 1992 classic, however, it worked flawlessly on the system, even showcasing the power that the handheld's 3D functionality can have when used well. The alien planet of SR-388 simply never looked better than in this remake, making it well worth the return trip. The original Metroid 2, Return of Samus, was a Game Boy exclusive, but is now extremely hard to go back to due to the limited graphics and archaic gameplay. Metroid Samus Returns improves upon these elements in almost every way, equipping Samus herself with a suite of new upgrades and a more bombastic take on the ending. The grapple beam, power bombs, super missiles, all the classic gadgets are here, returning the series back to its classic 2D roots that has left us hungry for another traditional follow-up. No Nintendo console is complete without its marquee Super Mario game, and for the 3DS players received a belter in the utterly excellent Super Mario 3D Land. A big showcase title for the Nintendo 3DS's headline feature, running through various colourful levels as the eponymous plumber played and looked great thanks to the additional sense of depth. This was a Mario 3D platformer that fulfilled the genre's full potential on a handheld device for the very first time, giving us a meaty Mario game that was playable on the go. Super Mario 3D Land doesn't go much discussed these days due to its Wii U big brother, Super Mario 3D World, also being fondly thought of. However, it ranks highly on our list of the 10 best Nintendo 3DS games ever made due to its pick up and play suitability and how it's revolutionised 3D platformers on the go. Here's hoping that Super Mario 3D Land can one day enjoy a second wind on Nintendo Switch, because Lord knows it deserves it. Ask anyone what their favourite Zelda game is, and odds are a fair few of them would name The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. This SNES classic was responsible for solidifying the dungeon-by-dungeon format from a top-down view, which was wonderfully iterated upon for its Nintendo 3DS spiritual successor, The Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds. Again making full use of the console's 3D capabilities, this original Zelda game serves as the comfort food of the series, bestowing Link with the ability to merge into walls, but still maintaining the classic genre staples. As the title clearly indicates, you'll be bringing peace back to the Kingdom of Hyrule by traversing light and dark variations, completing puzzles and item-filled dungeons in almost any desired sequence. Also new is the item rental system, allowing players to temporarily make use of key items like the slingshot until they have enough rupees to buy them outright. A Link Between Worlds is the hallmark Zelda title for the Nintendo 3DS. Leave it to the console with the 3D moniker in its name to see Pokémon finally make the full switch to a true three-dimensional game. Pokemon X and Y still represents the very best the infamous creature collecting series has ever offered, making small adjustments to the format while still maintaining the essence of what makes catching them all fun in the first place. Mega Evolutions serve as Pokemon X and Y's big new feature, letting trainers further evolve specific Pokemon in order to gain advantage over gym leaders. Not much has changed when it comes to the formula. You still play as a budding young trainer, making their way through the new France-inspired Kalos region to be the best there ever was. However, the new perspective added an all-new feel to this classic JRPG franchise that every entry release since arguably hasn't been able to match. Switching from sprites to true 3D character models propelled Pokemon into the 21st century, easily making it one of the most memorable Nintendo 3DS games. Prior to Fire Emblem Awakening on the Nintendo 3DS, the classic turn-based RPG series had only built up a cult following here in the West. However, this critically acclaimed entry of the franchise saw it fiercely enter the mainstream zeitgeist, thanks to its addictive battle system, gripping story, and advanced customization options that ensured no campaign playthrough ever quite feels the same. It's the perfect example of building up characters and adding extra weight to the story, with the thought that you might permanently lose them in time. Fire Emblem Awakening tops our list of the 10 best Nintendo 3DS games of all time because it offers a premier tactical experience for both veterans and newcomers alike. Rarely in a strategy game like this do you ever find yourself caring for the team members you're fighting with, but the story and social system merges perfectly to bring a sense of risk-reward to battles. Subsequent Fire Emblem entries have further confused the purity and balance found in Awakening, making this the very best of the series and the very best of the entire Nintendo 3DS catalogue. Thanks for watching our list of the best Nintendo 3DS games. If we forgot something, be sure to let us know which is your favourite down in the comment section below. Stay tuned to the channel for even more fun content like this in future too, including reviews, unboxings and features. Until next time, have a good one guys, and happy gaming.